When we think about wars between countries, we imagine tanks, aircraft, and missiles. You may be surprised to know that one of the longest-running conflicts between two nuclear powers centers not on territory or ideology, but on something far more fundamental: water. This is the story of how India has weaponized water against Pakistan for over 7 decades, and how this aggression is reaching a dangerous new phase. Let's go back to 1947. When British India was partitioned into two countries. The border drawn disingenuously by Cyril Radcliffe severed one of the world's great river systems. The Indus River and its tributaries, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas, and Sutlej, had sustained a unified civilization for millennia. Overnight, however, these waters became an instrument of geopolitical leverage. The first shot in this hydro-aggression came less than a year after independence. On April 1st, 1948, India demonstrated exactly how vulnerable Pakistan's new state truly was. You see, when the Punjab was divided, the headworks, that is, critical control points where canals drew water from the rivers, all fell on the Indian side, whereas vast agricultural lands they irrigated lay in Pakistan. This was clearly a fatal geographic vulnerability which India exploited with surgical precision. On that spring morning, as Pakistani farmers prepared for the crucial summer planting season, India unilaterally decided to turn off the tap. The East Punjab government shut down the flow to the Upper Bari Doab Canal and the Dipalpur Canal, cutting water to millions of acres of cropland. Imagine the panic. A newborn country, still reeling from the chaos of partition, suddenly faced agricultural catastrophe. The city of Lahore went without water for almost 5 weeks. Beyond being an administrative dispute, this was a deliberate act of coercion. Pakistan had no choice but to come to the negotiating table from a position of extreme weakness. The resulting Delhi Agreement forced Pakistan to pay India for its own rightful access to water, what the document calls seigniorage fees, and to accept that India would progressively reduce water supplies to develop its own areas. Think about that. A sovereign country forced to pay tribute for access to rivers that had flowed through its lands for thousands of years prior. The resulting crisis set a template that would define the relationship for decades. India, as the upstream riparian, held all the cards. Pakistan, downstream and dependent, could only react. The international community recognized that this arrangement was unsustainable. The World Bank stepped in to mediate what became a decade-long negotiation. In 1960, President Ayub Khan and Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru signed the Indus Waters Treaty in Karachi. On paper, it looked like a solution. The treaty didn't share the water, rather partitioned the rivers themselves. India got exclusive rights to 3 eastern rivers, namely Sutlej, Beas, and Ravi. Pakistan got 3 western rivers, namely the Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab. But here's where it gets complicated. Although Pakistan received the western rivers, India retained specific rights even on these waters. India could use them for domestic purposes, agriculture, and critically, for hydroelectric power generation as long as the projects were run-of-the-river designs that didn't interfere with the natural flow. This specific provision, as we will see later on, would become the loophole through which decades of conflict would pour. For years, India argued it had generously given up 80% of the Indus system's water. This narrative of alleged magnanimity became central to Indian political discourse. In actuality, India was building infrastructure that technically complied with the treaty's letter while systematically undermining its spirit. The strategy evolved over decades. In the 1970s, India proposed a Salal Dam on the Chenab. Pakistan initially objected, but a compromise was eventually reached. Then came the Baghlihar project in the 1990s. A 900-megawatt facility that Pakistan claimed violated multiple treaty provisions. India had included gated spillways, which give operators the ability to completely stop the flow of waters and excessive pondage, that is, water storage capacity that goes beyond what's needed for daily power generation. Pakistan took the case to a neutral expert. In 2007, the ruling was largely in India's favor, establishing a precedent that modern engineering practices could override strict treaty interpretations. By so doing, India had successfully normalized technical violations. The Kishan Ganga project took this even further. It diverts water entirely from the Neelam Valley through a 23-kilometer tunnel into another valley. The Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague ruled in 2013 that India could proceed with the diversion but prohibited certain operational practices. As expected, India ignored these restrictions. By the time Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to power in 2014, the groundwork for a fundamental shift had been laid. The BJP government conducted a study asking one question: what are the maximum benefits India can extract from the Indus Waters? The answer led to a policy of fast-tracking dozens of stalled projects. Until then, all of this was still technical aggression, wrapped in the language of so-called treaty compliance and development rights. Then came 2016, which radically changed everything. After a terrorist attack in Uri, Prime Minister Modi made a statement that would redefine the entire conflict. He declared that blood and water cannot flow together. This wasn't your routine political rhetoric, but rather a firm policy announcement. India was no longer interested in technical workarounds. And so, water had officially become a weapon in bilateral relations. In our next video, we'll explore how this doctrine of hydro-aggression reached its terrifying culmination in 2025, during what India called Operation Sindoor. We'll see how India moved from technical violations to active hydrological warfare, how it declared the 65-year-old treaty to be in abeyance, and how the conflict over the Indus has become a matter of survival for 237 million Pakistanis. The question is no longer about India's intent to coerce Pakistan on the supply of water. The question now is, what happens when it does?